On November 9th, 2022, Atomic Mass Games announced ShatterPoint, a new Star Wars miniature game, and according to at least a couple people on the internet, I guess I won't be needing this anymore. I got awfully close to the miniature shelf. I gotta be careful when I do those kind of stunts. At this point, we basically know next to nothing about this new game, other than that it is some sort of skirmish scale game where you control Star Wars characters. I mean, because at this point we've got a press release and, well, a trailer. And despite that, people are definitely getting a bit worked up over the future of Star Wars Legion. How many? I don't know. But let's start here by taking a look at the press release for ShatterPoint. I'm just going to be straightforward here with you guys, and this is a bunch of marketing speak. I think you can pull out maybe one useful piece of information, and that's this line right here. Identifiable Star Wars characters that are ideal for dedicated hobbyists and new painters alike. So we got unpainted miniatures, which is not surprising at all. And I think, like I said, that is about the only useful piece of information you're going to see in this press release right here. Other than that, it's basically Atomic Mass Games talking about how cool their new game is. But they did give us a video here with pictures of some of the miniatures, so let's take a look at those now, because I think it's safe to say that ShatterPoint is going to have a new set of miniatures distinct from Star Wars Legion. And we can confirm this pretty much by taking a look at one of the iconic characters from the Star Wars universe, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now we see his miniature here a few times throughout the particular video, so I'm going to take a look at this particular angle, which is at 51 seconds. And interestingly enough, the pose that we see here is actually kind of similar to how he appears in the core box from Star Wars Legion, but there are a number of details that are different. The hand being outstretched has the fingers in a different position. The armor's a little bit differently. His supply belt, or his utility belt, whatever you want to call it, has the different pouches, and also the way that his cloak is flowing down below the belt is different as well. Now, what we can't tell from these particular pictures here is the scale of the miniatures. And one interesting note, though, that somebody made a comment about in Facebook is that these miniatures do not appear to be what's called heroic scale. This term refers to essentially the bulking up of certain parts of the miniatures, in particular the arms and legs, so that the miniatures essentially look like giant bodybuilders. And this is done for a couple of practical reasons. One is that obviously larger things allow for clearer and more distinct, crisp detail. But also, having larger legs in particular means you're going to have a little bit more durable miniature. You're not going to have to worry a whole lot about legs snapping. And the fact that they're not heroic scale would probably suggest that the miniatures are a larger scale than Star Wars Legion, and then therefore you can get away with the more standard scale and not have to worry about miniatures breaking as much. However, like I said, it's not obvious as to what exactly this new scale happens to be. Now, the first assumption people are going to make about this game is it just Marvel Crisis Protocol with Star Wars characters, because frankly, based on the press release right here, it kind of looks like it. The description of the cool stuff that Atomic Mass Games talks about, it sounds like Marvel Crisis Protocol. And of course, the answer to that question is simply we don't know at this point. We'll probably find out between now and Adepticon. My friend did send me a supposed quote from a supposed Atomic Mass Games employee saying that no, this game is not MCP. It's got different stats, different this, different that, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I have no idea what the authenticity of that quote is. So maybe it's true, maybe it is not. But this brings up, of course, to the main question of the video, which is, with the release of ShatterPoint, is Legion actually doomed? And like with everything else about this video, the answer is we don't have enough detail. So I can talk about a few generic points and let you make your own decision on that particular topic. Let's get our Star Wars box back up here, and also let me put in the right direction. And the first generic point really deals simply with company resources. So when a company creates a new product and they have a same size of a labor force, Well, that means a certain amount of man hours that was going to previous projects, whether it was Marvel Crisis Protocol or something else, are now going to ShatterPoint. So that could potentially mean less people are spending less time on Star Wars Legion, and therefore this game's not going to get the same level of support, whether that is in the form of new product or new tournament stuff, whatever it may be. Of course, this assumption is based on the fact that Atomic Mass Games is not going to hire new people to either work on the new game or to hire new people to take over the existing game. But if they do that, that's going to cost more money. Now we get to the point about similar games having shared audiences. And this is not necessarily a bad thing for an existing game. It really depends on what the limiting factor of revenue is for Atomic Mass Games. Now, for any given tabletop game player out there, there's only so much money they spend at a given company. If that money limit is based on the fact there's not enough product for them to spend money on, adding a new game with a shared audience means potentially more revenue for the company. However, if that budget limit is based on, they don't have any more money, they have a certain budget each month they can spend on games, and they're already burning through that on Star Wars Legion, a new game with a shared audience means, well, some of that money is going to go to the new game instead of Star Wars Legion. So there's a couple ways that could end. Either one, if it's the first scenario, means more revenue across the board for Atomic Mass Games, both games survive. If it is more the second situation, then what would happen is, well, more revenue is going to be generated by one game over the other. And the problem is, even if there's technically the same amount of revenue with two games versus one, well, that's not a good thing for a company, because now that's going to mean less profit, because more products at the same revenue is less profit. And eventually what's going to happen is the revenue for one game is going to be better, and the other one's just going to get less support from the company, or possibly just get killed outright altogether because it's not making enough money. And then the third generic point has to deal with licensing. We don't really know a lot of the details about the licensing that I guess at this point it would be Asmodee has with Disney for the Star Wars miniatures games. We've obviously seen stuff from the original franchise, as well as new movies in the original franchise, Rogue One, and then the prequel trilogies and things related to that. Because you run into an obvious problem when you license an intellectual property from somebody else. There's only so much stuff you license, and if you run out of things to produce for your product, you're kind of screwed, and that's going to be a bottleneck for total revenue. I mean, if you haven't noticed, they have not released a whole lot of stuff, basically next to nothing, new anyway, for the Rebel Alliance for Star Wars Legion for some time now. Yeah, we got Blizzard Force, but that's kind of just all the same miniatures repackaged with a couple new cards. So Atomic Mass Games may be running into a situation where there simply is not enough new stuff in their particular license deal where they can actually keep supporting Star Wars Legion, unless they sign a new, maybe more expensive license deal or something like that. However, if they shift to a different game, in this case ShatterPoint, they can essentially re-release all the same characters and make more money off the existing licensing deal. Yeah. That's why at the end of the day, the most long-term successful tabletop games in the world, whether that be Warhammer, Battletech, Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, they're all their own effectively original IP. I know Battletech's licensed, but Topps doesn't give a crap. So that brings us to the final question. Is Star Wars Legion actually doomed because 17 people on the internet are freaking out about Star Wars ShatterPoint? The answer is not right now. But if any one of those things I mentioned just a moment ago play out, or that's what's happening right now, heck, we don't even really know how much money Star Wars Legion is making at the moment. It's entirely possible the revenue in this game is drying up really fast, and this may be an attempt not only for Atomic Mass Games to make more money, but also potentially maybe they got to do something and make certain revenue amounts to keep their license agreement. Who really knows? So I don't think this game is going anywhere just quite yet, but we'll see maybe a year after ShatterPoint how things play out. it's entirely possible that there will be only one survivor. But for the time being, no, you don't need to throw away your Star Wars Legion stuff. And oh, by the way, this is just the box lid I've had this whole time. I'm not actually throwing around my Star Wars Legion miniatures as I'm shooting this video. Alright guys, so that's about all I have for you today. If you like these kind of random news commentary things, hit that like button and I'll go ahead and make some more because they're just kind of fun and they're easy to make, to be honest with you. Otherwise, check out some of my painting videos. I've done some stuff for Star Wars Legion as well as Battletech and other games. Oh yeah, Hero Quest, just did on the topic of holding boxes the right direction. Did one of those just a little bit ago, and of course every now and then I'll still talk about robotics, and I have one final video coming up really soon ending the saga of Ironman 70.3 Michigan this year and talk about everything that went wrong and all the disasters that occurred during that race. I nearly crashed my bike at least 3 times. Alright guys, I don't think I mentioned who I am. I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. Thanks for watching.